Well, Barry, I've got a question for you this morning. I can see you're sitting down, okay, and have your favorite. You need to go to the hood hoodie on.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
little damp, little chilly this morning, but it's
A
okay.
little damp, a little chilly. Yeah, it's been a little chilly here, but hey, we're going to get over it today. So here's my question: does faith in Yeshua tend to make people lazy?
Well, let's look at that from a couple of sides then.
You know all those extra views we had last week.
Yeah.
Well, trying to whittle it back down.
Does faith make okay? It shouldn't, but it does.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right. So faith is not a mental um, conclusion. It's not a mental exercise. Faith or belief has to be active in order to be genuine.
so
So
could we look at it this way, that faith should not be treated as a noun, but it should be treated as a verb?
actually, according to Hebrews, the Hebrew tense of it, immunite, is an adjective.
Okay,
It's faithfully or faithfulness, rather.
which once again causes someone to have to do something, which is the message of Yaakov, or the book of James, of you show me, he was basically saying, to very loosely translate it, I'm not really concerned about what you're saying. I'm looking at what you're doing.
So faith without works is dead. So to have faith in Yeshua is not to sit back and say, I don't have to do anything because he's already did it all. That doesn't work. I mean, it's a popular saying, he did it all for me, so I don't have to.
Yeah, there's songs written on that.
Quite a few. So faith in Yeshua should inspire us to get up and get moving.
Okay, so is this a sorry about that. We got too many things going on and turned off all the beepers and stuff that's happening there. Is this a holdover in some ways from our previous systems, that it's all about grace, it's all about his mercy, he's done it all, he paid the price upon the execution stake, and all of those things? Yes, I got that. I can add nothing to the work that he has done for me upon an execution stake, his death, his resurrection. There is nothing that I can add to that. There is nothing that I can do to deserve that. That's it, period. But with that being said, did that produce a spiritual laziness regarding, well, now that he has done it all, I'll just hit the button on my recliner and take a little nap here until he returns and tells me to do something else?
Let's put this in the context of Israel in the wilderness, where our current stream of Torah portions are at. Yah is taking Israel through the wilderness experience to refine and reprove and construct in them a people, so that when they get into the land, they'll know how to function and to properly behave with one another.
Mm-hmm.
The work of Yeshua likewise has created an opportunity for us to know how to function and behave with one another. So now that Yeshua has redeemed, and he has provided an anointing to heal and to deliver, to break our chains, he has taught us the meanings of the Torah so that we know how to apply them correctly. He's elevated the Torah. He's established the promise of his kingdom among his people. That all of those things are situated and instituted so that we have an arena to operate in and do what it is that he did. The greater works than what I do shall you do. So the idea of, well, grace covers everything. I don't have to worry about it. It's all about me just experiencing the blessings now. That's not necessarily what Yeshua established for us. The early believers, they went out and did things. If Yochanan and Kepha had modern day theology, they would have never been going to the temple to pray.
Yeah.
They would never encountered the man at the gate. They would never reached down in belief and pulled him up to his feet. They would never stirred the religious leaders to the place where they left rejoicing that they had suffered a whipping for the name of Yeshua. They would have never prayed, now that you've seen what we've experienced, pour out your spirit upon us and give us your ability with signs, wonders, and miracles to confirm the word that you've given to us. None of the events in the book of Acts and beyond would have ever taken place because we would have been sitting back on religious laurels and say, well, it's done. We just sit here, wait on the kingdom and keep our nose clean. That's not belief in Yeshua.
So could we term our redemption, the work of receiving Yeshua into our lives is a spiritual invasion?
Wow. Okay. Explain that.
I'd like to. I just, I'm sitting here as normal, it's like, wow, this is a cool word. He invades our spiritual life. Redemption is when everything, go.
He invades by our invitation.
Okay, yeah.
We open the door and he barges in.
Well, yeah. I think we open the door. Let's go to the book of Revelation. The picture that we've seen through the years. I stand at the door and knock, and it's a picture of that there's only a doorknob on one side, that there's no way for him to open that door. He can only knock on the door. We have to open it.
Right. But
then how much access do we give him to our house? If someone comes, a neighbor comes to my house and, they knock on the door, I might invite them into the living room. You and Laura come to the house, you have much more access to my house. It's like, Barry, if you need something that's in the fridge, there's your room upstairs, go for it, pet the dog as you're walking through. The difference of access. So once we open that door by invitation, how much we allow him to invade or inhabit our spiritual life is up to us.
I see a picture, Mike, of him coming through the door, and instead of us inviting him to come sit with us in our living room, when he comes to the door, we hand him the title deed to the house. Yeah.
The keys to your safe. Hey, feel free to, anything it's like if you've ever had a house inspection. When we purchased this house, there was a house inspection. I met the guy here. We did not own the house yet. It was, someone else had the deed. But when that inspector came in, the very fact that the owners at that time had signed the paper allowing him to come in means that there was not a nook, cranny, or shadow that he could not shine his light on. He was looking for things. So, allowing him to do that, but then is the limiting him to the invasion of our spiritual life can lead to limiting him to invasion of our physical life. Are there areas of our physical life? And this is where the Torah comes in. This week's Torah portion on Mishpatim, the regulations, This is about him having an influence over every area of our life,
Mm-hmm.
our lending to people, our doing, our how we treat others. I was sitting with some friends the other night talking, and Daniel, our son, was there in that, and this was on Shabbat actually, and that he started a construction company about a year ago. It's been almost a year now. And in passing, he said that him and his partner in the construction company, he says, "Well, we have a widow's discount." And I'm like, "Stop." And I looked at somebody else. I said, "Have you, another person that's a little bit younger than me?" And I said, "Have you ever heard of any company that had a widow's discount?" No, I haven't. So this is not just to tout Daniel, but this is an example of, are we asking him to invade every area of our life, not just spiritual, but in our natural lives, therefore upping what it's not allowing us to just sit back on a recliner. In fact, we might be throwing that recliner out the door.
So when Yeshua comes in, when we're born again, we do tend to think of him cleaning up our spiritual identity,
Mm-hmm.
forgiving sins, breaking habits of the past, spiritual bondages, learning to read the word, being filled with the Spirit, and that kind of thing. Is it not also true that Yeshua says, okay, this is my house, my temple now where my Spirit abides, take care of it for me?
Mm-hmm.
If Yeshua came to me and said, I'm going to give you these acres of land and I want you to sow and reap and plant and take care of the ground, I want you to utilize the crops in this way. Certainly you would, what you don't know how to do, you'd set about learning how to do. I can put some seed in the ground and I can raise some plants in a small environment. If you gave me a field, I don't have a tractor, and I don't know that I want to get out with a hoe and a rake and try to dig furrows and weed the garden over many acres. I'd need some cultivation and equipment. So I would have to learn how to do that kind of thing. The same thing takes place in other physical environments, this physical environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to learn to, okay, I can't eat certain things.
That's because you don't use a hoe and a rake and all that stuff enough.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's also because he says don't eat certain things. That's my house. Don't bring that into my house. But I've also learned I have to eat in certain levels of moderation. When I was a teenager, in my 20s, I couldn't get full. And it didn't show. It began to show. I won't
Called
say
insulation.
well, yeah, and plenty of it at times. But the mindset sometimes is I need the same volume of food on the plate that I had when I was much, much younger. I don't need that much anymore. My mind and my body says, oh, but you're still hungry. I'm trying to learn eat to not necessarily to where you're I can't put anything else in, therefore I must be full, to eat to where, okay, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just need a little bit more. No, I really don't. It may taste great. And that's just one example. We have, giving your body enough rest, giving your body enough exercise, taking care of the physical man, because it's the house that the spiritual man lives in. How many people exited before their missions were accomplished because they paid attention to the spirit but not to the flesh?
Well, just paying attention to, again, Yeshua invading our life should have a bearing over everything in our life. There is not a single aspect of our life that should not have his fingerprint upon it. Everything that we do, we should allow his fingerprint. We should ask for his fingerprint to be upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you, and I'm going to go out to where I probably should not do this.
I can't stop you. I'm not close enough. Go ahead.
You can, but you have the record button control there. But let's take this past weekend. Now, I'm not a big sports fan. I don't care. I see nothing right or wrong regarding sports in the general overall aspect of. Okay, now when we're talking about gender confusion and all these things, okay, now we got a discussion. But 22 people on a field that don't need exercise, watched by millions of people who do, and they're chasing a piece of pigskin, which is not kosher, up and down a field. I know it's not pigskin anymore, but it helps with the joke. There is nothing in my mind that is right or wrong regarding that. It's just basic entertainment, whatever. But with that being said, I watched a little bit of the end of the game because, again, it's an irrelevant thing in my life. Right or wrong, I don't really care. But I turned on a few moments of the halftime show.
Mm-mm.
I may offend somebody in what I'm going to say, but I'm willing to take that chance. You can turn me off if you want to. If you were able to watch that complete halftime show without there being some conviction in your life, you need to spend some time with the Father. The demonic, sexual, I heard a talk show host that calls themselves a Christian that said, well, it was difficult at times sitting there with my teenagers and watching that. Well, then why didn't you turn it off? There needs to be, and I saw a post by somebody that I respect. They're not messianic, but I respect it. They said, well, it kind of depends on, the way that you look at things. No, it doesn't. It depends on this word. And this word talks about, in this week's Torah portion, this word talks about things like sorcery, bestiality, sexual, explicit things. There should be things that are not in our lives, folks. If you have allowed Messiah, well, and the old adage was, well, if Jesus was sitting in the room, would you be doing that? Well, if you're in Messiah, then he's seated in the room. He's seated in the room. What do people cause him to have to endure? Because, oh well, he'll just forgive me. Okay, I'm done. I'm probably done, but I'm just done.
It's been a number of years since I even thought about watching the halftime portion. Not a fan of the genres of music, and when I heard who was going to be performing, I didn't even try. So I actually turned it off. Turned it to another station. Was watching a movie for a while till I figured out, okay, they should be about ready to come back out now. I know that Yeshua is genuine being, his authentic nature and who he is never going to be compressed into our religious identifications of him. You and I have, just like everybody else, certain idealized understandings of who Messiah is.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a pastor of a system church, I I had a certain view of him, a certain understanding of him. Is when I realized I'm preaching the American version of him instead of his authentic version. That it really shocked me, and it changed my life. Are there still things about him that would shock me and change my life? We're in the process of finding those things out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's more to him than what we understand. The question is he stricter? Is he more tolerant? Is he more one thing than we understand? I don't know that Yeshua has diluted his set apartness. I don't see that availability in Scripture. Now, is he more inclusive and loving and forgiving than what we are? Yes. But at the same time, when one is redeemed by our Messiah, we are not redeemed to continue in the lifestyle that we've always known. The purpose of our redemption is to become like him.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say, well, you're just you're overdoing things. You're making things stricter than necessary. You're just being hard edged and hard nosed. It's not about condemning people who disagree with me. If someone, as you were discussing, watched what I don't believe I have the ability to endure and watch, to me it was an easy thing to turn off because I don't care for that. That never attracted me. If it were something that musically kind of caught my ear, but visually was immoral, I may have hesitated a little bit more, but at the same time, Mike, we have to guard all the gates.
Mm-hmm.
When Yeshua dwells within us, our belief in him that is seeking to make us like him requires that we put a guard over our eye, our ear, our mouth, gate, our own, all the gates into our being. It's like, if Yeshua comes through the door and we hand him the title deed to the house, we don't just go to the door and let anything in.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer our home. And I'm talking about this house. It's no longer, this is no longer ours. You are not your own. You've been bought with a price. Yeshua doesn't come in and make demands. You will give me the title. That's our offering to him. That's our reasonable act of service, as Romans 12 describes. Yeshua then holding the keys to the house, the title to the house, master of the house, as we continually invite him to step up and be in our lives, requires then that we watch what we take in.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a constant battle in our society. Well, you got to live in this world. You can't help certain things. There may be things I can't help seeing if I'm out in public or whatever. But if I can help it, I need to help it.
I'm not, and let me back up. I'm not trying to set myself up as an example of perfect righteousness here. We all walk through things. We all have our blinders. We all have our things that we deal with. But there is the obvious out there that, there should be no discussion. When it comes to things that are just flat evil, there should be no discussion on that. I don't know what happened about 3-4 weeks ago. Some people out there got a hold of my email address, and I've been getting spam, junk mail, to the point of at first it was like, every morning I'd wake up and there's like 20 spam things. This morning it was 128. I cannot figure out a way to keep that spam from coming onto my computer. I can, however, figure out a way to delete it without me having to deal with it. I can delete it before I see it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take an active role in this thing, understanding that we serve, or at least we're supposed to. This week is about the Hebrew servant and or the Hebrew slave, and this is the infamous message that you have had that has
Infamous?
that has huh?
Famous is a little bit better word than infamous. Infamous,
Okay, well,
negative connotation to it.
Okay, for some it's infamous. Okay,
Could be.
But these verses are the ones, I think, some of this that you came out with the message on the bride, the concubine, and the harlot.
Yeah.
The question is, which one are we living in? Which one of those women, the bride, the concubine, or the harlot? I had some friends of mine, very close friends, it's been not that long ago, that came and said, we listened to Barry's message. We're tired of the concubine lifestyle. It's time for a status change. Barry, the things that are happening around us, we can be spiritually lazy. And we're not just talking today about what we're, about doing. All right. And that's part of it. What are we doing with widows, with orphans, with our investment in the kingdom, with our funding? What are we doing with that? Am I lazy with my bank account? Oh, I forgot all about that I was supposed to be I was supposed to be investing in his kingdom. Really? You just forgot about it? I guess that's not, see, what we forget about is what is not important to us. You never forget to do what's important to you. And with that, his redemption should affect every area of our lives, not just compartmentalized. I heard a message, this is back in the 80s, and it was talking about compartmentalized Christianity. God doesn't want a compartment of our lives. He wants all of our life. And for him, it's kind of an either or, I think, in the end.
Years ago, someone taught me that to identify what is important to you, identify what you give your time, your attention, and your money to.
Yeah.
That's what's important. It's not what you say is important. It's what those things identify: time, attention, and money. How much time, attention, and money do we invest in the kingdom? And it's easy to get distracted. I've taught on this in years gone by, but there is a spirit that seems to war against me predominantly, and that's the spirit of wrong focus, where it's not necessarily you're focusing on something sinful. It's just distracting.
Mm-hmm.
You're chasing down something down a rabbit hole. How many times have I been sitting here even studying to prepare to teach or preach? And I think, well, I need to check something other. And I get over on a news post. And the next thing I know, I've spent 20, 30 minutes or longer chasing something online because of a news article that has intrigued me. And then I read, whoa, wait a minute. And I realized wrong focus. Just wrong focus. And I don't know whether it's adult attention deficit disorder or something other. I don't know, but it's easy to do to allow that which is in your environment to grab a hold of your focus and your concentration, and take you off of the route that you're supposed to be on. We're not suggesting to anyone that you don't live life. You have jobs to do. You have family to enjoy. You have duties and chores and errands to take care of. Life requires a lot of our time. What is being said, though, is in the middle of all of that, running like a motor in the background, a light that never is turned off, is an awareness of who we are, what we're called to do, who actually is king and master of our lives, what our end goal is, which is the kingdom and its operation, not just then, but now.
Mm-hmm.
That these things guard and guide what we do as a normal daily living. I live my life. We are called to live our lives with that kind of focus. Yes, I'll go to the grocery store. I'll go to, a job, or I'll go play golf, or I'll, go visit family. But in the back of my mind has to be a constant awareness of I'm His. What I say matters. What I do has importance, even if it's, just average and normal everyday living. How I speak to my wife, how I treat my children and grandchildren, all of those things. You can't just walk into your congregational setting, if you have one on Shabbat, and flip a switch, put on the persona, walk through the operation of that day using the right words, and then flip it off when you walk out the door. We have to be a consistent, constant, righteous character in everything that we do. We cannot, as you say, be lazy about that.
Well, I would. The only thing I was differ with you on that is saying yes, you can do that.
You can, but you're not supposed to.
It's called religion. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he told me he was a good Presbyterian. Don't really know what that means, but he says, "Yep." And we used to go to, we'd go to camp outs and together. And he said we all loved to play cards, but at midnight on Saturday night, those cards went up, and we didn't play on Sunday. It's like, what in the world are you talking about? I have no idea what. I don't. I just stood there and went, yeah, okay. Again, this week's Torah portion: you're to be a specially separated people. That's Devarim chapter 22, verse something here, 30 or 31, depending on your translation. You are to be a special separated people, and then it goes on in the next chapter says, "Do not follow the crowd when it does what is wrong."
You said Devarim, you meant Shemot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Exodus. Yeah, the other Devarim. Yeah, Shemot. You got that? Yeah. So we are to be a separated people. We're not supposed to follow the crowd. And are we just kind of going along through life? In this day, I really believe we are being called to take a stand like never before. And just as it was during the time of leading up to the Shoah, the Holocaust, people had to make a stand. But it was in those days that those who would take a stand became the heroes of the day. They're the ones that you read about. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. The first writing that I ever got a hold of from him was a book called "The High Cost of Discipleship,"
Mm-hmm.
in which he wrote on cheap grace versus costly grace. The grace that we have came at a very high price.
Yeah.
We have a choice with our own very lives whether to cheapen that grace or to respect the cost that it was bought for us with.
I'll leave us with this, Mike. The greater the prevailing darkness, the more important the shining of our light. Isaiah 60, when darkness is overwhelming and consuming, there are those that will arise and shine, and those who desire to leave the darkness will know where to go to.
Yeah.
If my light's not shining, I'm not helping anybody that's in darkness.
Yep. Kind of hard to for the those in darkness to lead people in darkness. Somebody's got to turn a light on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we run out of time. Mike, thank you for taking us down this path. It's not an easy path to walk in, but I think it's vital and necessary. And
No.
thanks to our viewers for staying with us to this point.
Yeah.
And sharing on your social media, for hitting the like button, and all of those important things. Please go to Mike's website, jointohashem.org, and check out not only this broadcast, but other things that he has there: monthly messages, weekly teachings, etc. I appreciate you going to remnantofisrael.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the congregation that you're a part of, or the home group, or if you just, it's just you, stay faithful, be involved, give your time, your focus, and your money to that which is important to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Support your local congregations. If you got a teacher, some leadership there that is striving to present the model of Yeshua and to further the kingdom in your community, support them.
Yeah.
Encourage them and let them know that you're doing so. That's important.
There you go. Well, yeah. There's no doubt the flow of evil is getting harder and harder to swim against. But as I've said before, any dead fish can swim downstream.
That's a classic Mikeism.
See you, Barry.
See you, Mike. We'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for watching.